We are Crowdcreate, and you're going to love this upcoming mastermind where we brought together some of the top thought leaders to discuss COVID-19 and different health technologies in this mastermind. It's phenomenal when you get people on the forefront of technology, of medicine, and science to be able to connect, to be able to help each other in the community, help them grow, help them get their technology shared. And yeah, so what do we do here at Crowdcreate? We connect businesses with thought leaders, investors, or their potential next client or strategic partner that can help them grow. We have the data, technology, and also processes to get you growing and scaling. We've done this for over 80 plus projects and successfully funded over $130 million. Feel free to contact us. Learn more at crowdcreate.us. You can also attend our next mastermind and sign up at crowdcreate.us. There's going to be a mastermind section on there. And thanks for joining.
My name is Ivan Khan. I'm one of the co-founders at CleanTech. And it's really interesting because, now that we've kind of jumped into this, we're seeing the second wave, we're seeing it spike again. People are really tuning up their ears to, for a while, there's people that are really hesitant, they're kind of pushing back. But I think we've entered a stage where people are just, this is the new reality. And it's so interesting to see solutions pop up left and right, as with many of these people on this call. It's so funny because Anthony, before we even started, he was like, hey, I heard about those guys that make the space helmet. And I was like, they're going to be here. They're literally going to be here. So it's really exciting to see, all people and types of like engineers, like taking a look at solutions. So here at CleanTech, if everyone's familiar with the hospital space, they have these massive UVC devices. They're literally robots. And I can actually share my screen. I'll show you what it looks like. But can you guys see my screen?
Yes.
So a lot of doctors, even in the airport space, they have, let me see if I can find it right here. So they literally will have it inside of hospitals. They'll have it like UVC would sterilize planes to bus stations. And we've taken that, miniaturized it, and actually created a device that you can have in your home, but using the same UVC technology. So our application is really taking that UVC light, which is very effective in miniaturizing that into your home. So we actually partnered with, I don't know if everyone's familiar with Xiaomi, but Xiaomi is I just saw recently, the #3 phone manufacturer in the world. So Xiaomi is being manufactured by Foxconn, but basically this device, it sucks in air through the bottom, pushes it through. It's kind of turning air filtration upside down, literally. So instead of pushing air as fast as you can through a HEPA air filter, it's actually just catching the larger particles and letting the viruses and bacteria go in. So it's kind of reverse thinking of how filtration works and letting the UVC take it away. So what I'm working on right now, we just launched this campaign. In about a week and a half, 2 weeks, we raised $175,000 on Kickstarter. So it's pretty amazing to see the community kind of get together and look for solutions. And I know there's a lot of other solutions on this call. And it's, to me, the most fascinating thing right now. It's like how creative people are getting, turning existing things that they thought were normal and turning it upside down. What we want help from the rest of the attendees here, not only just to talk and see what you're working on, see if we can collaborate, but we're actually looking for businesses and labs to try it out. We have 7 units here in Irvine, California, and anybody who has a business, we're literally saying, hey, try it out. You can test the air quality, see if it's working, but just looking for collaborators to try out our product because we have some in Irvine right now.
That's crazy. It looks like a very beautiful machinery, and I want one. And I don't know why I don't have one. I was gonna say, since that question is about 3 minutes long, should we just stick with that question for everyone? Is everyone okay with that?
That sounds great.
All right. Well, Jordan, the man with the helmet, let's go. I want to hear all about it. About who are you and what are you currently working on?
Okay, well, I'm Jordan England. We are Microclimate. Microclimate is a developer of Air, which I'm obviously wearing right now. It's the first in a series of products from Microclimate. We're currently in development on applications including everyday use, education, healthcare. But to start off with, we started with Air, which is a focus on safer and more comfortable air travel or travel in general. So especially in the context of COVID here. So we started production on Air in mid-October, which is, I guess it's about a month ago. And we have 800,000 in sales. We're ramping up production as fast as we possibly can. Air, it's a mask that doesn't just cover your nose and mouth, but protects your entire face and head, really, while keeping your face visible for more natural conversation. It seals around the neck here and connects to the rest of the mask with a non-permeable fabric. Has 200 square inches of HEPA 11 filtration using pleated filters, which are filtering both incoming and outgoing air. Has 2 fans, which move about 160 liters per minute of airflow in the form of a real gentle downdraft that can't be felt. Although there are fans, they're not necessary to ensure that the air is filtered. It's filtered with or without them, but they're there to keep you comfortable and prevent fogging. Has 2 rechargeable batteries in the back that provide 8 hours of runtime on the fans, and comes with different size pads to make sure it fits right. Most common questions we get are, does it fog up? Which it doesn't. And what happens if you have to sneeze? Which is a fair question.
Oh my God, I didn't think of that.
I get that a lot. I get that a lot. I can't wait to hear your answer.
Yeah, well, we just say that you can lift it up about 1 inch and you're sneezing into the fabric, which is why we made that washable for that kind of thing. So
Okay.
that is,
I was gonna say, you guys, I'm sorry, Will.
No, I was going to ask him if he's being modest. I know you had the first run sold out at 3,600 or 3,800 units, and I had a hard time getting one, even though I'm close with you and the founders at Hall. But who else are some of the other dignitaries? I know you've got Mitt Romney and some politicians, but you've really been kind of ferreted out, haven't you, by a lot of high-profile people?
yeah.
Want them in
We're
travel?
trying not to hand them out to too many high-profile people too soon. Really strange to kind of throttle your sales at first, but we just cannot keep up with
The
how
demand.
fast these are selling, which is great. Great news to have. So yeah, Mitt Romney has one. I'm told that the Princess of Saudi Arabia has one.
And everyone in this chat will have one. If you look under your seats,
Oh.
you get a helmet.
Yeah, it's really exciting to see that kind of enthusiasm. Yes, it's kind of a space helmet, and we're just gonna own that. So yeah, in fact, I think I should. Hey, here we go.
Real quick, is it true that you got Jay Leno one? Because I know he's a big proponent of the electric cars that they have at another sister company to yours at Hall.
I haven't heard if he does or doesn't. I'll have to ask about that one.
That's what a little birdie told me. But anyway, that's great, Jordan.
With that chin that he has, you might have to have a little extra room there.
All right. Thank you so much, Jordan. I'm going to move on to Buck. Dr. Buck, how are you?
Good. How are you guys? My name is Buck Parker. I'm a general surgeon. I do general trauma surgery in Salt Lake City at St. Mark's. Some of you guys I know are around here. I started Instagram and YouTube channel a few years ago. Started doing pretty good. I got a lot of traction, mostly because I think personally, I was able to be very authentic and transparent and kind of my thoughts and stuff like that. And the kids love that stuff. And so I was doing really awesome. And then I kind of ran into a little bit of a roadblock with my employer. So they didn't like how transparent and authentic I was. And so I got I had a few posts that went viral and they didn't like what was in there. And essentially got censored. So it was like disappointing, but it's reality. And so I kind of throttled that back a lot. I've done a few other things. I built a exercise product website in 2000s and sold like over $1 million of that stuff. And so I built my own study course for kids, and I sold that 1 year. It did pretty good. But same thing, like the throttling problem with my company was an issue I felt for my growth. And so I started looking into kind of like how essentially I could outgrow them, which, long story short, I'm just going to cut it short, is at this point I'm mining Bitcoin, and it's growing, doing very well. It's very profitable. So I'm essentially hoping to do that, grow that business big enough where it doesn't really matter if my employer thinks that I'm saying bad things about them or not. I don't say bad things about my employer.
You won't be censored.
I'm very honest and authentic about my experience as a physician. So and it's kind of interesting right now. There's a lot of, I think, probably censorship going on. I talk to a lot of my friends that don't want to say what they really are thinking about just the world in general. It doesn't have to be COVID or whatever. And it's unfortunate. I think that's happened. But anyway, that's where we're at. And by the way, I see you guys, a lot of tech, like health and medical tech things. I do have a YouTube channel, and I just started recently doing like Tech Tuesdays, like medical Tech Tuesdays. So I'd love to have all of your stuff, everybody on the channel.
Buck. Sounds good.
Awesome. I was gonna touch on that. That sucks that sometimes you're not really free to say what you want. And I know for YouTubers, that's a huge problem. I'm friends with a few photographers around Chicagoland, and they have to just uphold this image, and sometimes they can't completely like vent out or else. So it's almost like we almost understand what celebrities go through. We almost understand why they kind of go crazy. It's because they kind of help like hold back a lot. So I understand where you're coming from. Yes, 100%.
One of the things that we're working on at Crowdcreate is some new platforms for free speech. One of them that I'm working on, I'm an advisor on, is called Ghostcast, and it's an audio YouTube platform. So, and it's uncensored, and they have everybody on there from trusted, valuable health professionals, financial people, even entertainers. It's really interesting, but there's several of them that are emerging to give speakers like yourself, Dr. Buck, and others a free, the freedom that you deserve and need, and that the audience and the public needs, really, to get the right information at the right time and believe and trust in something, in someone besides the official channels or the government, that type of thing. So more value to you, and we want to help you in your quest.
Buck, and really the purpose of this mastermind is to bring together the community. A lot of people are smiling here because we're big fans of cryptocurrency and Bitcoin, and we've been in the space for the last 3 years. My co-founder, Ivan, he's actually been mining Ethereum for the last 3 years. Kevin Maloney. We have a deep network and connections in the Bitcoin space. So Buck, I'm a huge fan of your YouTube. My brother is actually a doctor in residence. He watches you, and he introduced me to you, actually. And you're doing great things. And for him being, a resident in his first year, hats off to guys like you that are sharing that education.
Super awesome to hear. Thank you so much.
Yeah. So I think that's a good segue. Kevin Maloney actually would love for you to share. He's a good friend. He's also based out here in Newport Beach, and he's been with us in the cryptocurrency Bitcoin and has his hands in multiple things. Let me introduce
Hi, Kevin.
Yeah, hi guys. Hi Jojo. Hi Jeff, Ivan, and Will. Obviously huge fans of Crowdcreate. Been watching you guys execute for years, and proud to be an anteater with you guys from UC Irvine, the alma mater, of course. I am involved from a day job perspective, been involved with financing and investments, specifically real estate, for many years. Also several different tech startups. I've probably given 1,000 investment pitches, raised about $100 million for about 14 companies. Had some winners, definitely had some losers. learned a lot more along the way from the losers. In fact, I gave a podcast last night on your worst investment ever, and I wasn't sure I wanted to highlight myself, but you know, this guy has hundreds of thousands of listeners, and apparently it's quite valuable to share your losses with people. So I like to inspire people on what not to do. Anyways, today, really exciting, by the way, and thank you for having me on the call. Super impressive group of people. I have a hardware cold wallet. It's a hardware software device that actually is going to be the prototype finally, after a lot of security issues, is going to be ready at the end of this year. So that's something Jeff and Ivan know I've been working on for a couple of years. Most recently, I partnered up with a company as a co-founder called Vizaeras, Vizaeras, meaning visual air. And this one is super exciting to me and very relevant and timely because it's an indoor IoT technology platform company for monitoring indoor air quality, and not just air quality, indoor air quality, IAQ, but healthy indoor environments. It's a small form factor. Let me see if I can get a shot of this here. Small form factor, Vizaeras. You literally just plug it in, and there are 14 different features that we can monitor. We're not talking about just the indoor air quality index. It's about pressure and temperature and mold indication, humidity, volatile organic compounds, but also elevation, location, PM 2.5 particulate matter, noise decibel meter, lux light meter, electromagnetic frequency on radio waves, also carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, nitrogen oxide, radon, and ozone. So that we know of, we have more indoor air quality sensors than any device on the market, packed in this small form factor under $200. But the key is not so much that it's just a proprietary IoT platform technology, and that it's got more sensors than anybody else on the market, but the AI, the data that we're collecting can start to predict employee health and business productivity trends. There was a book written this year, very timely, probably the best timed book in the history of publishing. Joe Allen, professor at Harvard, wrote a book called Healthy Buildings. Really phenomenal book. It's a short read. And he talks about not only do we need to monitor indoor air quality, but also the overall healthy indoor environment where we spend 90% of our time, which is indoors. 90% of our lives spent indoors. It's 3 to 5x more pollutant inside than outside. The EPA calls it a top 5 public health risk. But when we contacted the EPA and said, well, we have air quality index for outdoors, what's the air quality index for indoors? And guess what? There isn't one. And so Joe Allen's book says one of the best opportunities in our lifetime to generate health and wealth is not only just monitoring indoor air quality, but providing public access and transparency to the indoor air quality. Because we spend so much time and money indoors, we should know what we're breathing. So we were impacted. Our one of my other businesses was highly impacted by highly trafficked retail businesses, and those were shut down. And we thought, well, how do we get back to generating revenue again? We came across Joe Allen's book. He gave a talk for a group of business leaders I'm involved in, and we were inspired by the book and the need to get people transparency about what they're breathing. And so we're not cleaning the air like the clean tech device, which, by the way, I saw on Kickstarter. I bought 2 of them for my kids' rooms. So I'm really excited about that device, but we are not cleaning the air. We are simply monitoring the air and the environment we're all spending time in, whether it's at school, home, office, or at the pizza parlor. We're in discussions with Yelp right now. Yelp will someday have a monitor on the Yelp page for any business and a QR code at the front door if you walk in to scan here, indoor air, we care, scan here to access the air quality. And you can scan and see the entire environment inside the building where you're going to eat, sleep, study, spend money, shop, or whatever. And we think that's really important. So we're not solving the problem with COVID. We're simply riding the wave and selling safety, security, and peace of mind, and partnering with other companies that are leveraging other great technologies to clean the air, but we're just monitoring it. And now you can monitor it and also share access, the link publicly with everyone on the 9th floor in your office, or every one of your customers at the In-N-Out Burger down the street, or everyone that frequents your Pottery Barn, whatever it is. We think that people are going to rate businesses not only with great steaks, excellent service, beautiful views, but clean air. Come and shop here or eat here. And so that was the whole motivation behind developing this small form factor device that allows you to monitor not just the air, but the overall healthy environment. And I'll leave you with this final thought. It's not just about the air we're breathing. Joe Allen says it very clearly in the book. By increasing the ventilation in any building, just by opening a door and window, you can increase productivity of employees by up to 10%, literally impact the bottom line by up to 10% by just increasing ventilation, opening the door if the CO2 levels are so high, or a window if that's possible. So not really a pitch. I'm just excited about what we're doing and what everyone else is doing on the call, and I'm happy to learn more. Thank you.
Kevin, thank you. You're a serial connector and the guy that knows how really knows who's who. And, in similar vein, John DeLeese, I know you follow a similar serial entrepreneur, and also from a building and real estate standpoint, maybe it's a good introduction to have you next and share what you're working on. And
all the way from New York City. And he has a big building and incubator accelerator himself there with about 100 companies. So
John, you're muted.
You're muted. Yeah. And by the way,
okay, there we are.
Putting links to everybody's website and also their LinkedIn in the chat. So feel free to click and follow along and see what everyone's doing from a visual standpoint. So.
Thanks for the introduction, Will. So I'm on the line today here with Jack Walasevich, who's my partner, and why we're jumping on here talking a little bit about COVID. My background very quickly, serial entrepreneur. We have some real estate here in Tribeca, New York, where we put our operating companies. It's not 100, Will. It's probably like quite a bit fewer than that. But we have run a lot of companies through here. Jack and I met a number of years ago, really talking about creating the protection of the individual in an online world. And Jack came up with a technology that's built around ultrasonic tokens, single-use ultrasonic tokens, which through a 4-factor authentication create an unhackable identity when you're online. And that's expanded now into many other subjects. We have a company in Europe which was honored with a €2 million grant to build out a full IoT encryption stack, which Kevin, I think you might be interested in. We protect, with an agnostic platform, all IoT sensors and build a secure platform around that. I'll leave that a little bit more to Jack. Where we came to connect with Crowdcreate through David Coombs, who is in his own way an ultra connector. We came with Jack's idea, and I'll let him talk a little bit more about that, about creating an irrefutable opportunity for people to get back to work despite COVID. Utilizing testing, regular testing, and this irrefutable way to identify yourself to match safe people with safe spaces, which has a great impact on our world even going forward. We believe that this is probably the basis for actually entering safe buildings, as we recently spoke of, and really having a different way of people having power in their identity to be safe in the world, whether it's online or in real space. I'd like to hand it off to Jack, because I'd like Jack to talk a little bit about the Cyber Health creation that we have, which is built around getting us all back to work despite COVID.
All right, I'll jump in. Hi, everyone. Jack Walasevich. My background is in cybersecurity, but John and I were talking about applying some of the user authentication, the ultra secure user authentication technology that we developed for healthcare applications. And then COVID-19 came along, and we realized that there's a really strong connection between user authentication, the way we implemented it with Sonic Links, and testing results, because the only tool up until there's a really successful vaccine widely distributed is going to be testing as far as being able to provide some safety for environments like offices or venues or restaurants. And if you can combine user identity with recent testing results and make that very actionable, it does a number of things. One is it actually motivates people to go out and get tested, because there's a real benefit to being tested and having irrefutable proof that you're recently tested, because then that'll allow you to go into spaces which are safe, relatively safe, but certainly orders of magnitude safer than what you're normally exposed to under the current circumstances. So you can create safe spaces of people who are similarly recently tested. So you would use our user authentication methodology as essentially a passport which works remotely with a sonic link that allows you to walk through entry gateways into office spaces or into restaurants. And that provides, in addition, of course, to other mechanisms, but that provides a structure that creates safe spaces and safe buildings, and the ability of people to go back to work and to business as usual. Now, Ivan, some of the work that you're doing is a really important piece in that equation as well, because we realized along the way that this is one big piece of the equation, but the other piece of the equation is ventilation and making sure that the air in the building is kept clean, and the building is also CDC compliant. So we're actually partnering with a CDC compliance testing company that allows us to also certify buildings in the process to make sure that they're CDC compliant, and we can do that across the whole country. But the biggest vector to infection, probably 80 to 90% of the solution, is not letting infected individuals into a safe space. And the only thing that does that is irrefutable proof of testing, or irrefutable proof of recent vaccine. And we don't even know how long the vaccines are going to be effective for. So this will continue to be a necessary tool for people to create safe zones.
One thing I wanted to add is that it's a bottom-up thing. It's not coming from the top where you have to have everybody adopt it. You could do a building at a time. You could almost do a space at a time. You can certainly provide the economic advantage to an employer or a building operator who needs people back to work. Like, for example, here in New York, we're about 10% occupancy right now. The loss of productivity is measured in trillions of dollars a quarter, and to get back to work is clearly very important. This can also be applied in a smaller scale to schools, allowing children to go back to school, freeing up their parents to go back to work and work without any worry and freedom. If anybody wants to know more about what we do, we have a website. You can call me or Jack, and we'll jump in.
Yeah, you know what, John, if you want, you can always put any links of you guys through the chat, so then we can all see it. But kind of changing it up a notch for Anthony.
Actually, Jojo, maybe we can connect Jose Malea, who's also close contact, and Jack and John. I mean, we believe in it. We know that United Airlines, Hawaiian Airlines, they're requiring a negative COVID test before you can fly. And that negative COVID test would be done through these third-party providers. We know that Ticketmaster is also requiring a negative COVID test before you attend concerts.
We'll save the best for last. Anthony and Will. Okay, take the floor, Jose.
Oh, thanks, guys. No,
Jose,
definitely would love to connect with you guys.
I'm ready to jump in. This is a good segue, but go ahead, Jose.
Oh no, go ahead, Anthony. Go ahead.
No.
All right. Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for putting this together. Jose Malea. So, we recently started an Opportunity Zone Fund, obviously, to raise capital to focus on a few different companies that we're launching. One of those companies, Safe Indoor Space Company, is actually doing work that I think touches everyone who's spoken on this call, which is finding different both public and private facilities that are trying to make their indoor spaces safe, and being agnostic to the different technologies, looking for permanent, sustainable solutions that we can then implement in those places. So there's a few companies that we're currently working with. One is a far UVC, sort of that 222 nanospectrum safe UVC for lighting. There is a sensor company, for example, and I'd love to get more information on that indoor air quality sensor. It looks amazing. And there's a titanium dioxide company that creates a layer of protection on surfaces. But we've talked to a number of companies, and we're currently, in the middle of working with one of the universities here in South Florida to try to implement these programs in one of their campuses. We're talking to the port, the big seaport here, the Port of Miami. We've had conversations with the school district. So with government, and my background was in government for a long time. I worked in the federal government at the White House, was chief of staff to the mayor twice, and then started my own consulting company, as well as businesses in the food and beverage space. So I'm actually a owner of a craft brewery down here. So that's sort of the day job. But I felt
very important.
very
important.
This incredible opportunity, and to me it reminded me of what happened in the post 9/11 climate with the Homeland Security technology space, right? And I got to experience that close up, being in DC, and then seeing the creation of the department and that entire industry that emerged, and the need for this sort of integration role. And so I felt that this was a good space to be in, and this is what we're focusing on. A lot of leads that I think are going to pay off soon, but I'd love to talk to all of you, because we do have a lot of need for different tech, and not every technology works in every single space. And so that's one thing that we're trying to be, is a little bit more agnostic on the technology, while at the same time, we plan to create and launch an accelerator for these technologies, right? So we identify other technologies that we can scale, maybe bring them into, actually definitely bring them into opportunity zones. That's what we plan on doing as well. So this is all, rolling, and I've been lucky to get a lot of great feedback from Jeff and Ivan and Will, and it's been an awesome process to work with Crowdcreate, and hopefully soon we'll be out there even more aggressively, and you'll be hearing more from us. But pleasure to be on here, and thank you guys for sharing so much great information.
Thank you so much, Jose.
Great,
All right, Anthony. So I think what everyone's sharing is, obviously we're connecting, we're sharing ideas, but data is really important for you guys. So why don't you tell me a little bit about your company?
Absolutely, data and monitoring. So I really enjoyed hearing all of the backgrounds of the companies here, and it's just been amazing to hear about it. So I'm with Aditex Therapeutics. Aditex is a life sciences company. We recently listed on the NASDAQ just in July, so new IPO. And it's been just 24/7, just as Jojo said, we don't sleep, we just go 24/7, and very similar to your schedule. But what we're focused on is really around two key divisions within Aditex, and that's immune reprogramming. So we have some very exciting therapeutics, apoptotic DNA immunotherapy, and this is a type of therapeutic that helps to tolerize certain tissues specific to the organ. So let's say you want to have a kidney transplant. Instead of just a blanket immunosuppressants, which can cause a lot of risk, this actually is targeted to that specific area, thereby improving the outcomes greatly. So this is preclinical, very exciting applications there. We're looking at launching quite a few things soon in the next year. But my area, I'm the head of business development for Aditex SCORE, and that's the monitoring side. So think of being able to look at the immune system in a new way, profiling the immune system at the individual level. So I really like this segue in terms of what we've been talking about, and how can we help individuals, families re-enter the marketplace or get back to their families and extended families in a safe way. So we all know that there's things like PCR testing out there, which is good, even though Elon Musk, he had those 4 tests and 2 of them were positive and 2 were negative. So in other words, it is a good test, but we need a little bit more to add to that story to be more precise. And that's what we're all about, precision. And so we're enabling consumers, individuals to understand their immune system status. So with some very innovative technology and testing, we have a proprietary platform, world-class partners like Stanford. We're launching testing that gives the consumer very actionable, useful data to determine their level of immunity. So antibodies can really not tell us a lot. I mean, we can have antibodies, but that doesn't mean that we're immune, as you guys might understand. But with the testing that we're launching and commercializing in a standardized way, we'll be able to provide that data with great interpretation and something that the consumer can understand very well, their level of immunity or their status. So think of it as an immunity status check. So for example, are my antibodies actually effective at countering the pathogen or the virus? And we have multiple applications for this as well, but COVID-19, of course, is our first one, and we're on a similar mission here. So, you know, there's a lot more to this, but I just wanted to let you guys know or leave you with this, that we are focused on identifying markers and analytes in a way that's not been done before. And we're a public company, so there's not a whole lot that I can disclose right now, but that's in a way that will provide those reassurances that, hey, am I really immune or not? What is the level of that immunity? What's the durability of that immunity? So how long, is that long lasting or not? So the testing is there. We're looking at cellular response assays. Those are the things that are really, that add that whole new layer of insight. And so it's a very, very exciting place to be in. We're growing very rapidly, and it's neat to be able to be here and collaborate and to get to know you, and looking forward to more opportunities.
Anthony, it's fascinating. What's your biggest need or want now that you guys are pretty liquid? You've got your IPO going and successful, and you're in the right spot with certainly strategic partners like Stanford and others. What's your biggest need, or what resources are you looking for the most right now?
Well, that is a fantastic question. We have the financing through our partner, JP Morgan Capital. We have so many things in place. We have the visibility opportunities and channels that are, and I can't drill into the details there, but it's very, very exciting, the opportunity for us to be highly visible. But our key focus right now and what we've been working on 24/7 is building out the infrastructure to support the capacity. And the capacity is really mind-blowing when we're taking into consideration national and international interests, and working with municipalities and government and partners who are very much engaged in those channels. I mean, when I heard about some of the technology here in terms of understanding regional areas, maybe like a heat map, understanding regional areas of COVID and being able to help specific regions in a way. So yeah, to get to your question, it's just all about us making sure that we have all of the infrastructure and the equipment and the teams and the staff in place to be able to handle the capacity well.
Okay.
Thanks, Anthony. And I also know that Dr. Drew Pinsky is he's one of your advisors, correct? You have a lot of great partners in Stanford Blood Center. Dr. Buck Parker, from the life from the hospital, I'd love to get insights on like what you see on the front lines. I'm guessing you have a lot of friends still in the space, but we're curious to hear your insights on what's going on.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think, there are, that would be, when you say like hot spots or heat maps or whatever of the virus, would be very interesting, because I think that, it starts on the coastlines, and it has moved in, and everyone's like, this is the second wave. Well, this is kind of the first wave for these people in the middle of the country, I think. And so it's kind of an interesting distribution. And right now, the other interesting thing is, and I've seen this a couple of times before. So in Salt Lake City, we have two like level 1 trauma centers, who are the biggest hospitals. There's University of Utah and Intermountain Medical Center, and they both have like 700 something beds. So they're the largest, but there's several other hospitals in Salt Lake City. They're smaller. Like the one I work at is 350 beds. There's a couple other hospitals that are 250, 300. They're not 10-bed hospitals. They're real hospitals. So, and the two big ones this last month said, we're totally full. We're over capacity. We're going to have to start rationing care. We're going to shut down Utah and all this stuff. Meanwhile, last week I walked into the ER and I'm like, how come it's so dead in here? What's going on? They're like, I don't know. We have no patients. So we're not overwhelmed. We're not going to ration care. We're not going to, turn people away. We do have, COVID patients. I just got a report this morning. We have 28 COVID patients. We have like 2 in the ICU, something like that. So, I've seen other large institutions. I was in Orlando when there was a mass shooting there at that nightclub. I was at a smaller hospital, 350 beds, the main hospital there that most of those patients went to. They were overwhelmed. We called them. We said, hey, we're happy to help. All this. They said, no, we don't need any help. They were obviously overwhelmed with trauma patients. So I don't know what to say about those things. Like, that's what I see. But so I don't know if in other parts of the country or other cities that those same things are going on. So that just, like you have to investigate those things, but it certainly brings a question to my mind about what exactly is going on. Do I think it's significant? Do I think there's a lot of cases? Yes. Do I think that maybe we're not using our healthcare system as a whole appropriately? It's possible.
What about Dr. Sorry, Dr. Buck.
This technology you guys have talked about, all of you guys have talked about today, is awesome, and I really appreciate it. It's so cool to see like people just like on a dime flip and be like, oh, this is a new industry. This is going to help the world. We're going to build this, and then like boom, it's there. Like, that's really cool. So I appreciate.
One of the things I may have left out as well is that this commercialization of the immune monitoring is going to be at home as well. So consumers don't need to go to the hospital parking lot or wherever, to get tested. This is something that they can do at their home and have very meaningful, useful information that will apply to them.
Yeah, there's so many layers of issues here, but I think the overall thing is we have a big problem. We don't know how big it is. We don't know where it is.
And Dr. Buck, I wanted to, Dr. Buck, I wanted to get in a quick, sorry.
To get us back, to working. I think that's productivity to me, I think is the biggest danger, not really the health issue. I think the productivity is the biggest problem over the ripple effect of that and over a 5 to 10 year span. So you have to get people back to work, however that is. Doesn't matter. There's a lot of ideas of like why and who and how and all that stuff, but I think that's the bottom line.
100% agree. Yeah.
Absolutely. And then Will, did you have a question?
I did, real quick. Thanks, Jojo. Maybe Anthony can also jump in on this. I'd like to know if Dr. Buck or anyone for that matter, since we have such an esteemed panel here, is the possibility of a mutation, a mutate. I know this is all a SARS type of origination, eventually, stemming, and regardless of where it's coming from, where it's going, what's the future look like? I know we're in a pandemic now and there's a lot to contend with, and we're developing a lot of great skills and needs that are going to address this thing. But I do worry personally, as well as hear a lot from certain investors, that things are going to mutate or have different strains, or we're going to lose that herd immunity and prediction of shortness of time. I mean, just anything. I know I'm opening a can of worms here, but love to hear your thoughts.
Well, that's a deep question. That's loaded.
Well, Dr. Buck, you want to take a swing at it? And then Anthony, I'd love to hear
Anthony probably knows more than me, honestly, on this, but I certainly know there's already different strains. I don't know how variable they are. I think from my understanding is that SARS isn't hugely variable like the flu, but it is somewhat variable. I don't know if you have more information. So my expectation is, yes, there will be lots of different strains, but and will it be like the flu, like every year we need a new vaccine? My understanding is no, but I could be wrong on that. Anthony?
I think Buck is right. What I've researched and seen that it doesn't tend to mutate this COVID as much as like the flu would. But regardless, it brings up a great point, and we're very much dialed in with the vaccines and different companies because I think that's very exciting for us. And we do believe with these vaccines that are right around the corner, that our technology will be able to determine how it affects the patient, even preemptively before they get the vaccine. Will this vaccine work for this individual? So that's a key point, and that is very, very exciting. Multiple applications from type 1 diabetes, which is in our pipeline and many other things, but we're able to look at the viruses and understand how an individual will react to that virus even before the vaccine. Okay, so that's pretty exciting stuff we're working on.
Yeah, I'll just add real quick, that's super exciting in the medical world, because I know that other medications that are widely distributed, like, Xarelto and things like that for heart stents, right? So blood thinners for heart stents. You get a heart stent, most of the time you get put on a blood thinner because you don't want that stent to clot. They're like 50% of the patients actually get their blood thinned appropriately for that stent. But we don't have real good testing, like mostly, sort of genetic testing. And even some of our pain medication that's very, common, like we just give it, say, outpatient surgery. Okay, you're going to get 2-3 days of pain medication. Like 15 to 35% of patients don't actually react to that or metabolize it appropriately so that it controls their pain. They come back with more pain, and then you don't know, because we have such a huge opioid problem. You don't know if they're drug seeking or actually, but we have no testing really for. I mean, there are tests, but widely available, they're not there. So things like this, I think, are the future for sure.
Yeah, I'll fill you.
Type of immunology and testing and genetics, and do drugs. Does this drug work for you?
You're spot on, Buck. Yeah, I'll just give you a little more insight into this type 1 diabetes world as well, and what we're able to do through our platform. At a very early stage, right after a baby's born, even maybe during their first vaccination, we can take a test and look at 4 different autoantibodies. And if the child or the baby tests positive for 2 of those, that means they have type 1 diabetes. But what's really cool is we can kind of take that a step further and start to desensitize the child therapeutically against type 1 diabetes, preserving their beta cells. And that's where it gets very, very exciting, being able to use these advanced technologies to identify early on. We all know right now that type 1 diabetes, it used to be called juvenile diabetes, remember that? And it's not called that anymore because a lot of the kids now are obese, and it's much harder to determine. We also know that if someone's miscategorized as a type 1 or a type 2, let's say they're really a type 2 and or they get categorized as type 1, the therapy is so much different and can cause dramatic damage to the individual. I just talked to a doctor that I know in Vegas, and he wasn't diagnosed with type 1 diabetes till he was in his late 40s. And he had all kinds of issues, sepsis. I mean, he almost died. So anyway, getting more specific, more precision in these areas using these advanced technologies is very exciting, and we're at the forefront of that. So
catching it early, it sounds like, too. That's a big deal. And ounce of prevention's worth a pound of cure, right, Anthony?
Yep. And even as it relates to COVID, we're all about switching it from reactive to proactive through the monitoring of the immune status. Yep.
Yeah, thanks for sharing it. And also, just a quick thing I wanted to bring in is like, on the data side and the immunity side, that's really important. But like almost on the preventative side, because I just traveled from Michigan, and my in-laws actually all had COVID. They're in the ICU for they're on life support for 2 weeks, and you come out of there, and it's almost comparable to PTSD. My brother-in-law comes back saying, "Hey, I feel like I'm not even in my own body," right? So there's mental trauma, and that's why I think it's so important. Where yes, on the medical side, we can prevent as much as possible, but on the hardware side and the data, and this is why I find it so interesting, is that like microclimate. Like as you're traveling, you can feel safe, and you have that level of comfort. And like John, what you said was phenomenal. Like, imagine if you can go to a building and know that the people within this building are safe. And I just see there's so much potential. And, as the air purification technology and kind of embracing, UVC, it's interesting if we can even plug into some of those platforms like what Kevin is working on, and, almost do a correction if the levels are too high in this building on Yelp. And it's like, hey, literally, hey, these guys can clean it up, or, prescribe the remediation for them. So
Yeah.
really
All-
interesting to hear from everyone here.
I was gonna say everyone here has been doing something that's a game changer. Kevin, what you're doing is absolutely insane to see, and John, just to make sure that the buildings are nice and safe and clean. So yeah, it's and then Will, going back to what you asked earlier on, like, what do we see in the future? Obviously, I'm no doctor. Obviously, I'm no scientist. I'm just the human base of this, so that I wanted to put my input that we're all humans, we adapt, and this is why we're here. So just wanted to say thank you to everyone, seriously, again, for being here. And if anyone has any last questions, because we're getting close to that hour, so we can get close to wrapping up and sharing any ideas or any input, now would be the time.
Well, it's
Way is
super
just-
encouraging.
I'm
Oh,
sorry, I
go
was
ahead.
gonna say the best way is to just include our emails in the chat box for us all to get in touch with each other. Is that right?
Of course. And then I'm also going to be sending a nice big email to all you guys.
Okay. all right.
So we're all getting free helmets, free beers, free air
Yes.
vents. We all have a good.
Free Chicago pizza, Joanna. Free Chicago
That is
Giordani's
hard.
pizza. I've been
That is
promised
a
that for
a
month now,
heavy
so
delivery. That is a
there
very
you go.
heavy.
Deep dish, right, Kevin?
I don't discriminate on any kind of food, so it's all welcome and appreciated. Yeah.
Well,
But-
I would think just real quickly that Anthony, you and John DeWeese and Jack would have some amazing synergy right away. And, you
Thinking
know,
the
here
same.
at Crowdcreate, I come from a long line of 20 years of syndicating deals and helping to scale projects and get the growth capital involved, or the smart money, I like to call it, involved with all of your projects. So, you know, I can see, and I think Ivan pointed out quite a bit, so did Jeff, on exactly how interconnected we all are project-wise and kind of goal-wise. So I just want to commend everybody for interacting so freely, and can't wait to do another one of these. We'll have a whole series of different themed masterminds and webinars from Crowdcreate coming up here. And, you know, look forward to really, you know, learning more from all of you guys, and also helping to interconnect and scale your projects. And hopefully we can, at Crowdcreate, can introduce you to the smart money, not just the average check writing money, for all that you're achieving. So great job.
Sounds great,
Thank
Will.
you so much, Will, Jeff, Ivan, and JoJo, for including us in the call today. I'm always so impressed with the technology and people you guys seem to gather together. We're just one small part of the story. We're on the front end, on the monitoring side, and it's so refreshing to hear all of these great technologies that could potentially all be working together, from the customer facing to just the to cleaning the air, and to knowing what the building is occupying besides the people and equipment. So really, thank you for keeping us informed, and really appreciate being allowed to participate.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin. So we carefully selected everybody in this group to make sure that we had all different segments, and also Dr. Buck Parker and everybody for joining. Really, Crowdcreate, we believe in, you know, what's called the wisdom of the crowds, that collectively we're smarter. We're here, happy to make any introductions to anybody we can, you know, both whether it's, you know, doctors and influence, or other thought leaders, or investors, other innovators and whatnot. So please stay in touch. We're going to send out an email that's going to connect everybody with LinkedIn, you know, email, contact information. As Will mentioned, this is an ongoing mastermind. And then the next one, if you have any guest suggestions, you know, you're all welcome to join. And your insights and technology and what you all do on a daily basis is very much valued, and happy to always make connections and introductions to whoever we can. So thanks, everyone.
Great. Thanks, Jeffrey.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks, everybody at
Thanks, everyone.
Crowdcreate, and nice to meet everybody.
Have a
Nice
good
to
day.
meet you
Everyone.
guys.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Bye,
Meet everyone.
guys.
Take care.
Bye.
Sure.
Thanks, bye-bye.